Welcome to the Edition Wars podcast, where we take a deep dive into the mechanics and play styles of all the editions of our favorite game. We look at what worked, what didn't, what led to better games, as well as, what didn't lead to better games. And we talk about it all. And in this episode, we're going to discuss part 4 of the 3.5 edition Unearthed Arcana book, which has hopefully, I think, I have found this to be a fascinating discussion. I hope our audience feels the same. And if you don't, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully our next project will catch you in a better way. But with me, as always, is...
I'm Brenda Stoddard. Happy to be here tonight. How are you, Sam?
I'm pretty good, you know. I mean, it's July 2020. The year is eking and coughing and hacking by. So, yeah.
I feel like this year kind of needed a Babylon 5 season intro, the Year of Fire.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's not talk about this year.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. So, we left off last time at the end of Chapter 3, and so this time we are discussing Chapter 4, which is all about adventuring, which it kind of is and kind of isn't. Actually, it's about things like defense bonuses and armor reduction and damage conversion and injury. And so it's not really about adventuring in the way that we kind of use the word in 5th edition, but it is about all the things that could affect how well you survive if you run into combat while you're adventuring.
That's correct. Yeah. So it starts us off with the defense bonus, and this is interesting to me because the thing they bring out here, a scaling defense bonus as you gain levels to just fix your AC so the math works. Well, that's something a lot of other 3X era OGL games did pick up. I want to say that there was a Star Wars game that used defense bonuses like this. I want to say that maybe the Wheel of Time game used something like this. Just a lot of D&D hacks that were intending to do something where heavy armor wasn't really the aesthetic. Did something like this.
Yeah. So the premise for the audience is that as you go up in level, you level up and you get better and better at your attacks, but you don't ever get better and better at your defenses. Your armor class, if it gets better, it's because of an item, not because of your leveling up in skill or prowess at anything, right? Whereas your fighting does do that. Your attack bonus goes up, or your ability to cast new and different spells goes up, or whatever. But your defense never goes up. And so what this does is it takes that into account and says, well, let's assume that you don't have a particular assumed type of armor on.
Right.
What would your defense bonus be? What would your AC be if you got better at defending yourself as you leveled up?
Yeah.
And it goes from, and it splits everything by class, because some classes would do better than others, presumably defending themselves. And then it, gives you a bonus ranging from +2 to +6 at first level, depending on what class you are. And by the time you hit 20th level, it's +8, +9, +10, +12.
Yep. And so it's interesting that they keep the same 4-point spread all the way up. It's only a 4-point spread. And the other kind of fascinating thing about this to me is that 5th edition just doesn't need it. Like, this is contrary to bounded accuracy. Bye. I mean, the internal scaling idea, where maybe there's internal scaling on top of an existing bonus, well, I mean, that sounds like 13th Age to me. Right? So the ideas that they're playing with here were directly or indirectly mined by a lot of different games over the years, and I want to say that some of Unearthed Arcana was added to the system reference document for 3.5, but I'm not looking that up right now, so that could totally be wrong.
I think it was. I'm not sure if this particular thing was, but yeah.
Yeah, but if it wasn't, then it was used anyway, so kind of whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, and the thing about this is it doesn't stack with armor. So you either get your armor bonus or you get your inherent defense bonus.
Right.
To improve your AC, but you can't get both. So you can't wear plate and get this and have some massive AC. So my question, you said 5th edition doesn't have this because bounded accuracy, so you don't need this. Did 3rd edition need this?
I mean, we've talked about the fact that 3rd edition was very into, you pumped your gold into your gear so that your gear would level up, and AC was an aspect of that, right? So it only didn't need this in the sense that it was solved in that way. And like, man, the just gear grind headaches that could have been done away with if this had been put into 4th edition, so that you aren't like constantly playing catch up trying to keep your AC where it needs to be, because you don't have an inherent scaling function on your armor either, right? And so on.
Right. But to be fair, I mean, well, fair. 4th edition was explicitly made to be that way.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I mean, it wasn't an accident or something that only showed up at later levels and or something like that. It was specifically built around that. So
no, I'm not saying that anyone designing these games didn't know what they were doing and didn't act with intent. Just like that would have been a different approach that could have done something interesting and taken some loads off.
It certainly would have changed things for, say, Dark Sun.
Oh boy.
Right.
No doubt.
Dark Sun in 4th edition had to implement the inherent bonuses because the expected treasure that you get, the expected magical items, the expected everything wasn't, because Dark Sun is basically post-apocalyptic and deals with resource scarcity. So you can't have all of the expected things that you're getting in, say, vanilla 4th edition in Dark Sun. So they had to introduce inherent bonuses. I wonder if this was the kernel of the thought about how they could actually do that in Dark Sun.
I kind of think they had been chewing on the same problem, year over year, because they probably were looking at, well, we can't really represent that character in fiction because that character doesn't wear armor, and you just can't play D&D like that and be a serious fighter. So yeah, like I think that probably the designers were aware of this gear dependency, let's say, problem, and we're looking around for ways to make something different happen.
Right.
So we're going to go through a couple of other versions of what armor is and does immediately following. But they do also give ways to convert monster defense bonuses to the same thing, and such.
Right.
But man, sitting there trying to convert 3rd ed monster stat blocks on the fly by figuring out what armor they're proficient with, so that you know how to increase their AC. Kill me now.
Yeah, you'd have to have that done beforehand.
Yeah, just that's awful. So next up we have armor as damage reduction, and this halves your armor bonus to AC and then compensates you with between 0 for padded armor. Don't wear padded armor, guys. It's not good. And realistically, 1 and 4 points of universal damage reduction.
Right.
And so you're just taking a few points off the top, and the funny thing is, in its own way, this did make it into 5th edition. It's Heavy Armor Master.
Yeah.
Just right there. Except that magical weapons get around Heavy Armor Master, but that's fine.
Right.
But this is addressing the thing people have said about D&D for about 46 years, which is that armor doesn't help you not get hit.
Mhm.
Armor helps you be hurt less when you get hit. Right.
And I mean, our armor class has a similar problem to HP in that way, in that hit points have very specifically morphed into a health bar in computer games.
Yep.
And then therefore that has bounced back onto the RPG side of it, and HP has morphed into a health bar when it's really not. It's actually more nuanced. It has to do with fatigue and small cuts adding up to big ones, and that sort of thing. Whereas armor reduction addresses that more directly.
Yep.
Because AC has the same problem of, you actually, it didn't meet your AC, so they missed you, but they actually didn't miss. They just, maybe it was a glancing blow that didn't injure you. So, and this actually sort of deals with that.
Right. And what this doesn't have a good way to account for is how your ability scores aren't changed in coming into this system. So, this is going to create a situation where it's quite easy for a high dex character to have a much higher AC, but no damage reduction at all, or even just a competitive AC, but no damage reduction at all, compared to someone in all this heavy armor with garbage decks, right? And 5th edition, but both 4th and 5th edition accept that by having no ability score adjustment applied to your AC if you're wearing heavy armor. You only know that ability score adjustment if you're wearing light or in 5th medium armor. Well, that does sort of skew the math here. I don't think it's skewing it in an unintended or unacknowledged way. It's just it means that someone like a rogue or a bard is fragile in a different way, right? They're maybe correctly not going to get hit quite as often, but when they get hit, it's over because they're functionally taking 3 or 4 more points of damage than a fighter would from the same attack. Is that good? Is that intended? Who knows? I didn't try it at the table, so maybe. It's kind of interesting, but it feels hard to guess how that would play in the long term. Obviously, this doesn't have this is no patch on damage scaling, because 4 points of damage matters at 1st and 2nd level. You ignored 4 points of damage at 15th level in 3rd edition. Cool story. Yep, that did not help you. Getting hit more often because more of my iterative attacks land. Now you have a problem, right? Because this doesn't address attack scaling at all.
Well, because it's decoupled.
Yeah.
And as soon as you decouple it, now they can't be related.
Yeah.
And so at some point it has to break down and not be relevant in terms of like you said, 4 points. Well, big whoop.
Yeah.
You don't care about that.
If you were to pair defense bonus with damage reduction from armor, and also did something really inventive with armor check penalty, you might find a way toward a situation where people able to wear heavy armor sometimes deliberately didn't do so because they knew they were going into an exploration scene and were going to need to be limber, right?
Right.
Anyway, there's also handling for this in magic armor and natural armor. The bonus on magic armor only increases your AC. It doesn't touch your damage reduction. And then there's a note on stacking damage reduction, which is not a phrase I even want to think about again. I knew how it worked at the time, but I have totally just dumped that bit of knowledge as to how stacking damage reduction works, and I'll thank you not to remind me.
It was a thing. But, you did the calculation and whatever.
Yeah. So shields also apply just to AC, and then natural armor has a whole thing. And dealing with that natural armor adjustment on the fly is another of those absolute worst kinds of things.
Right.
Just no thank you. Now, so a mature adult red dragon is a natural armor bonus of plus 24.
I was just reading that paragraph.
That gives it damage reduction 4/bar, and its natural armor bonus is reduced by 4 points to plus 20. No.
Yeah.
God, no, please.
I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, because you can't even just look at its AC value. You've got to keep in mind it may have a low dex, and so, yeah. Anyway, guys, no. Like, this is fine if you have built the system around this from the jump, or if you are seriously going to convert your whole monster manual over to this with extensive calculations for every monster. But
right.
There's nothing casual about you using this in your game.
Yeah, because here's the frost giant, right? It has a +9 natural armor bonus, so it gets DR1 from natural armor. The chain shirt that it's wearing gives it an additional DR2. If it were 7th level barbarian, the barbarian class levels give it a DR1. And then you add up those three values, you get a DR4. So his AC is 20, 10 plus 8 plus 2. That's how they got the 20.
Oh.
So imagine going through the Monster Manual 1, Monster Manual 2, Monster Manual 3, Monster Manual 4, Monster Manual 5, and the Fiend Folio. and figuring out that damage reduction for each one. So, I mean, now, let's be honest. I'm not sure that anybody would necessarily do that. They would just do it creature by creature when they were running that creature in the game. But still, the fact remains, it's not smooth, especially when, as you said, you're talking about 4 hit points of damage reduction.
Yeah. And I like that they give extensive behind the curtain sidebars on everything.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And they talk about the combo of defense bonus and damage reduction. And that's all pretty cool stuff. But then they launch into another system.
I think for those, you have to. I mean, this is something where you don't just decide it in the middle of your campaign.
Oh no!
You have to say at the very beginning, okay, we're going to play this game, but we're doing this variant. And because we're playing a swashbuckling game and everybody's going to be, stylish swashbucklers, we want to use defense bonuses and damage reduction.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing from the get-go. And then, then you incorporate it into the way that you talk about that game.
And again, I'm not looking it up right now, but I feel like Grim Tales might have mined from this fairly extensively. And that was a really deep hack of 3rd edition. Just barely recognizable as 3rd edition. Anyway, the next system. So we have damage conversion. I'm going to just go ahead and say don't use this one. I'm sorry. Like, this one's a real mess. So the idea is that when you get hit, you convert the amount of your armor bonus of out of lethal damage into non-lethal damage. So you're tracking those separately, which means healing is going to work better, because if you are receiving magical healing, every single point of magical healing heals both 1 point of non-lethal and 1 point of lethal. Don't do this. I played in Arcana Evolved for years and years, and just the bookkeeping around receiving healing and taking damage was not the fun part. That was not a good part of the game, because it was just I now have multiple hit point pools, and I need to track how healing is converting lethal on them to non-lethal on me. And no.
So basically, it makes a very clear distinction between non-lethal and right.
I do have one more thing I want to say about damage conversion. My life. Okay, so the one last thing I want to say about damage conversion is that the behind the curtain sidebar on damage conversion is actually them signaling the logic behind why NPCs die at 0 hit points instead of having death saves in 5th edition, right? They want to avoid the potentially ugly post-combat scene of the characters feeling it necessary to slit the throats of their unconscious foes. That's it. That's the logic. That's why NPCs die at 0 hit points instead of like the DM even potentially thinking about needing to track their bleed out.
Right.
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 It's so that like you don't need to have that sort of ghastly scene of, well, I guess we would make sure they're all dead or they'll come after us. Oh, that is not heroic action. No, thank you.
Right.
Is, I think, the reasoning there.
Do you know how common that type of action is?
In the games I was playing in 3rd Ed, it was very common. It was incredibly common.
That's what I mean, though. It's still common.
My players accept that things are dead at 0 hit points and we don't talk about it anymore.
Well, I mean, granted, I've had a lot of different groups, and some of them accept it, and some of them, there's always one that says, I got to make sure these things are not going to cause us trouble later, right?
Cool.
I mean, it's a thing. It's part of the murder hobo trope, right?
Great.
It's a coup de grace for each dead enemy.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I get it. So, just it's not
I'm
the fun I want to have.
I'm not making I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying I know for a fact that still exists.
Oh. Right. Yeah, like every gaming community is different at this point.
Right. And so even though, this is in here, and I agree with you, that's the reasoning, and that's why, that's why it happens in 5th edition the way that it does explicitly. But yeah, it's not, it doesn't always carry through to the psyche of the players.
All right. Now, Sam, please launch us into injuries.
Now let's talk about injuries. Okay, so basically this is an alternative hit point system. Okay. And really what happens is it takes away the idea of hit points. And it says we are going to just use an injury threshold as determining how injured you actually are. We're not going to use such a basic, transparent number scheme such as hit points. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take away your hit points. And we're going to say that when you take damage, we're going to divide that damage by 5. We're going to round up, and if you're hit by, so for example, if you're hit by an attack that did 12 points of damage, so you're still rolling the same, right? You're still rolling an attack. Your creatures are still rolling an attack, rolling damage the same. They didn't change that part. But what happens is, let's say I roll a 12 for damage. You got hit for 12. Well, in the old system, you just subtract 12 hit points from your hit point max hit point total, and then you'd move on. In this case, you take the 12 and you divide it by 5. And then you round up, which gives you a total of 3 in this case, because 12 divided by 5 is 2 plus, right? So then you round up to 3. That means this is a 3-point injury. Now, to determine if you actually took the 3-point injury, you have to make a fortitude save. The fortitude save is a DC 15 plus the damage value. So the damage value is that 3 that I mentioned a second ago. So now your DC is 18. So if you roll a fortitude check and you make 18 or higher, you have succeeded in avoiding that injury and you take no damage. If you fail, and you fail by less than 10, then you took a hit. And each time, so the other thing that complicates this is each time that you are hit, you have a cumulative -1 modifier on future fortitude saves to resist future hits, okay? So you take that hit, right? So we'll determine what happens later. If you fail to save by 10 or more, you become disabled or staggered if it was intending to be a non-lethal hit. So here's the thing about this, okay? If you succeed your saving throw, it has no effect. If you fail it by less than 10, you get hit. If you fail it by 10 or higher, you are disabled. But here's the thing. When you become disabled, okay, then you're conscious, but all you can do is take either a single move action or a single standard action, Okay, and you can't take a full round action. You move at half speed. So it has all of these qualifiers, right? This is an actual condition. You are now disabled. Okay. If you're anyway, I'm going to stop reading there. So you understand the complexity of this all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't, once again, right, here we are trying to take hit points, which, just a few minutes ago I was lamenting that, hit points used to be a representation of the entirety of your psychological and mental and, emotional state on the battlefield. So it represents fatigue and mental weariness and actual physical damage. And that just calling it one number, hit points, kind of makes that too simple. But here you take that and say, well, let's throw hit points out then. Let's do this thing instead.
Well, so I have some comments on this. I have some notes. Now, the thing that this is trying to do, I have actually seen handled very coherently in Mutants and Masterminds. Because it absolutely does this. But the system is designed around that from first principles to not have superheroes with hit points, because superheroes don't have hit points. That's not the,
right. Well, superheroes don't die, right?
Whether they die or not, it doesn't feel like a hit point track, right? And they can take these hard hits and just shine them on. Nothing happens. That's part of the four color fantasy that Mutants and Masterminds sets out to create, from the best I've ever understood it, which is more on the reading side and less on the playing side. More's the pity, because I did enjoy what I played.
The reason I say that superheroes don't die is, especially in early superhero in comic books and whatnot.
Yeah.
The superhero is the hero.
Oh, sure.
And can take a licking, but keeps on ticking, right? It's like,
Golden Age and Silver Age heroes are not known for being killable.
Right.
It's where you get into Bronze and Iron Age that the mortality rate goes up.
Right. But also when they best someone, they're often carting them off to jail for trial.
For
sure. They're also not killing the enemy. They're doing justice. They're trying to let the justice. So that's why I said that, because that's a very known superhero trope, right? So
sure.
I could see if you might want to not have something as non-granular as hit points in a game like that.
Yep, right? I can definitely see that. Anyway, this feels like a real headache to me in actual use. I can't remember, because I never read it. I just read about it. I can't remember if maybe Star Wars Saga Edition touched on this also.
So Saga Edition had a condition track that, oh gosh, it's been a while, but it was sort of like this, kind of probably parallel evolution, but I don't remember it seeming as clunky as this. But
well, sure. Again, designed from first principles rather than reverse engineered.
Sure.
So I think we have beaten that one to death, and it has finally failed its last fortitude save.
I mean, so there's a whole bunch I didn't say about all of that. All these conditions and all these different things that are happening, but it's headache-inducing to read it. Not to say that some groups couldn't use this and have a ball with it and all that. I'm not making a value judgment. I'm saying for me, it's headache-inducing to deal with all of it.
Yeah, for sure.
That brings us to healing.
Yep. So the goal of this section, and really a lot of the next couple of systems, lots more systems. Heavens, we have a lot more subsystems to get through. Is to bring D&D fantasy a little bit more in line with the supporting fiction. Your Appendix N fiction, where there are just not that many healers in every party. There aren't. Well, especially this is third ed. You have to have a cleric. other characters can heal technically. You have to have
Mhm.
a cleric. Let's not mess around. And
Right.
so they're trying to like move D&D more in that direction, or at least make moving that direction more of an option, without just fixing the spell lists, whatever. So we're going to talk about natural healing and non-lethal healing. So this is the healing system specifically for that injury
Mhm.
system we just covered. But
Right. So in other words, it splits them. That injury system, it split everything into a lethal damage category or non-lethal damage category. So I kind of mentioned that, but I didn't make it really
yeah,
explicit. And so when you get hit, you either have a hit that's a lethal damage hit, or you have a non-lethal damage hit. And then if you got a lethal damage failed by more than 10, you get disabled. So it has all of those different things we were talking about. And then if your non-lethal damage failed by 10, then you're staggered, which is another condition. But what happens is when you go to heal from that damage that you took
yep,
to put you into those conditions, you now have to heal 2 categories worth of damage. You have to heal some lethal damage and non-lethal damage.
yep. Well, and we're talking about how to heal hits and so on.
Right. It's not hit points.
Yep.
It's,
and
yeah.
and then applying that to fast healing and regeneration, it gets real messy.
Yeah.
And it's just like changing the level of granularity that you care about is like, if you just say it like that, I think it's obvious why it would be messy,
Mhm.
right? You're trying to zoom out, and that's hard, right?
And it's an awful lot of context switching if you're trying to do it
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the fly, or if you're not really sure how it works and you're just trying to learn it at the table. That could be a huge problem because it starts becoming complicated with weird edge cases and all this, so yeah.
Yep. And so we get handling for special damage defenses.
Mm,
I'm not sure we're going to be fascinating our listeners with diving into these.
no.
So next up is vitality and wound points, which again have seen a ton of use in both people's home games, based on what I read on message boards for years, and also based on, like, I think this is used in the Star Wars.
The D20 though, not the saga.
The D20 Star Wars, right? Where they needed to represent sudden death from lightsaber.
Right.
And so the idea here is that you're separating sort of the meat side of hit points from the luck and dodging and so on of hit points. So wound points are the meat. That they are actual big gashes in your flesh, and then vitality is all of that luck and divine favor and I feel well rested today and whatever else that keeps you going.
Yeah, and you get a number of vitality points at first level based on class. And so it works pretty much how you might expect. Barbarian gets 12 plus their con mod, fighter gets 10, ranger gets 8, rogue gets 6, all those plus con mod, and you get a vitality die. So you roll just as you level up, you roll just like you would roll hit points traditionally, but you roll a vitality die.
Yep. And then your wound points are your constitution score. So your survivability at first level is much, much higher.
Right. Well, because you don't take wounds unless you get hit with a crit.
Or you're at 0 vitality.
Right. Sure. But that right. But if you're a barbarian with 12 plus con mod, it's going to take yeah. You have some good survivability.
I mean, the actual amount of punishment you can absorb before you are dead, well, it has a lot in common with the starting hit points at first level in 4th edition. It's not the same, but it's not that different either.
Right.
And I think that's kind of interesting. But right, critical hits cut straight to meat points. And then there's rules around injury and death, special damage situations.
Right. Well, hold on. I want to back you up
sorry,
for a second.
ahead.
Also, wound damage puts you in a fatigued category. So the first time you take a wound, you now have to introduce being fatigued.
Sure.
So you now have a condition placed on top of the actual wound.
Yeah, and okay, you kind of have to decide for yourself whether you like death spirals or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good side and a bad side to death spirals in design, and as a general statement, D&D has shunned them because they aren't heroic, right? They're realistic,
Right.
Or at least they encourage verisimilitude. Instead of I'm at 1 hit point, I'm fighting like a champ, I have no problems. You're weakened because you're badly injured, so you have a problem. Well, the problem there is the first person to take an injury now has a much more difficult time surviving the fight and coming from behind in the fight. And so, to a certain extent, it overemphasizes the value of initiative and Nova Striking. Well, Nova Striking is already overvalued in D&D.
Right.
And so, if you're going to have a death spiral, you probably also want to have something in your system that is pushing back against Nova Striking. An escalation die comes to mind as one of the most graceful ways I've seen a game handle anti-Nova Striking.
Right.
In case that term of jargon is unfamiliar, Nova Striking is just when you use your biggest stuff first, instead of acting like a proper action hero or Dragon Ball Z character and using the small stuff early until you're in a more desperate situation and you have to destroy them with your biggest, baddest stuff.
Right.
That's what that's about.
Nova Striking is the reason why you have a 5-minute workday.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
And so if you're unfamiliar with that phraseology, a 5-minute workday is the idea that the party goes out as soon as they get in 1, maybe 2 fights, they've already spent all of their major spells and abilities, and they're really not able to take on another challenge. So they go back and rest up and heal up and spend the whole rest of the day doing nothing, and then they camp and get up the next day and do it all again.
Right.
But the reason that I brought up fatigue here is because let me tell you what fatigue does. And this is why for the audience, this is why Brandis started talking about death spiral. Because here's what happens if you're fatigued. If you're fatigued, you cannot run, you cannot charge. You take a -2 penalty to strength and dexterity until you have rested for 8 hours or until the wound has been healed, if that occurs first. In addition, anytime an attack deals wound damage to a character after you've already been wounded the first time, you have to succeed on a fortitude saving throw of DC 5 plus the number of wound points lost from that attack, or be stunned for 1d4 rounds. Okay, stunned, which is bad. And during that time, anybody else can help you to try to, if they stabilize you, they end your stunned condition. But so here's why I bring this up, because this is very much like exhaustion in 5th edition. This is worse than exhaustion because it does trigger that death spiral you're talking about. And now that you've gotten a wound, it's much harder for you to succeed at anything else other than just continuing to die, right?
Yep.
But exhaustion is kind of it's similar to fatigue in that as it gets worse, if you don't take care of your exhaustion levels, the disability keeps adding up for you, and you get worse and worse and worse, and you're now in the exhaustion spiral, which could end up being a death spiral for you because you are really not able to do anything by the time you get up into the higher levels of exhaustion.
Right.
Being exhausted 1 level is not a big deal. But like fatigued, if you're fatigued in the middle of a fight because you've been wounded, number 1, you're fatigued, but you're wounded. So yeah, death spiral. It makes it gritty. It makes it gritty.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other, biggest tabletop games out there, Call of Cthulhu, is death spirals all the way down.
Right.
Almost every aspect of play is some kind of death spiral, and that's the fun of it, right? Is trying to sort of stay out in front of it or to die interestingly.
Succumb to the idea that you are going to perish in some way, maybe not bodily, but maybe mentally, and therefore you might as well go for the gusto and do what you got to do, right? Because you know it's not going to end well.
And so, like, we also have healing rules for the vitality and wound point system. Vitality points come back much faster. Characters recover vitality points at the rate of 1 vitality point per hour per character level. Does that sound kind of like a short rest to you, Sam?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, weird. Huh.
Yeah.
Odd.
I'm sure that when they developed 4th edition, that was a completely separate development of that.
Oh,
sure. Yes.
Let me tell you, we're going to get a much more one-to-one
I know it's
healing
coming.
surge rule set here.
I know it's coming.
Very good. But yeah, like you definitely see that here because they are trying to create space for parties and fantasy tales that don't have a PC healer at their center. Which is also, an important goal to the 4e and 5e designers. 5e even more than 4e, and that's why those games work the way they do. It's what the healing surge or hit die systems are about. There's a whole thing around vitality points and monsters. They don't really recommend having vitality points for NPC classes. And there's just a lot of here's how you handle this, here's how you handle this.
Right.
I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of useful stuff to talk about there.
No, not really. So then that brings us to reserve points.
Yep, and reserve points. Well, that is just dead on some healing surges. It's just not sort of chunky like a healing surge. It is, I have reserve hit points equal to my maximum hit points, and when I rest, I can heal myself with reserve hit points. Like that should sound exactly like the hit dice I roll to get my hit points are also the hit dice I spend to recover hit points in short rests.
Right.
Healing surges, like you could more than fully heal yourself once in the course of a day.
Right.
Sometimes quite a bit more if your class was really into that, like paladins.
Well, and this is definitely the 4E 5-minute short rest, because the example they give is they use Tordek, right? Tordek is the dwarf fighter, I think.
Yep.
Tordek has 22 hit points. He has therefore 22 reserve points also, and he's in battle with some orcs, takes 6 points of damage, so now his HP is 16. However, after the fight, his reserve hit points, he had a reserve pool of 22, remember? His reserve hit points begin to, quote, convert to hit points. So over the course of 6 minutes, his reserve point total drops by 6, and his hit point total goes back up to by 6, bringing him to a maximum of 22. So in 6 minutes, he basically did a healing surge. Right?
Yep.
But I'm sure that has nothing to do with 4th edition. Total convergent evolution, completely unrelated,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if we read the credits list of those respective books, we would find that held up.
Sure.
Anyway, I mean, 4E was designed just 4 years after this book. Released just 4 years after this book.
Yes, right. That word is very important because, they weren't just looking back at the core books when they were doing fourth edition.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean,
so anyway, so reserve points.
So reserve points are a cool idea. They're very mathy, and I'd rather use the chunkier healing surges or hit dice, but as a prelude to healing surges and hit dice, they're pretty solid and really worth a good look.
You say they're kind of clunky or mathy. You didn't say clunky. You said mathy. They're kind of mathy, but not compared to the two things we just read above.
No,
I mean, compared to those, this is really simple. You just have another pool.
Yeah.
You just put another box right next to your HP box, and you have that in reserve, and you just track both of them.
Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So next up.
Anyway, next we have massive damage. Yeah. Yes, we have a few pages. Yeah.
So massive damage thresholds and results, and this is all about changing up when you have to make a save against massive damage and what your massive damage threshold is. In core 3X, I believe it's 50 points, right? And so
I think so, yeah.
And so in high level play, you can get a game dynamic, especially post 20 play. In very high level 3X, you can get a dynamic where everyone's dishing out 50 points or more with an attack. That's just universal. It's not even a meaningful dent in the target's hit points. So what you're doing is trying to get them to roll a 1 on their fortitude save. You are going crit fishing,
right,
with a critical fail on their fortitude save to resist massive damage, because that will cut them down quickly. Now, I never personally played 3X in that way or at that level, but I definitely read about that happening. And top level spells definitely push that. When you're talking about, throwing multiple meteor swarms in a day, yes, that will absolutely happen.
Right.
Anyway, they talk about different threshold options. Maybe it's based on Constitution or based on your number of hit dice, 25 plus 2 per hit die, or based on your size. And I've seen a bunch of those used in different ways in various third ed hacks, such as D20 Modern, I believe, and D20 Call of Cthulhu really leaned into some of this. Now, those would have been released before this book, because I was still in college when those came out.
But not that long before. I mean,
no. 1 or 2 years before. You've got to keep in mind how rapid the
releases were.
The release cycles were, especially if you're talking about third-party content in those heady days of 2000 to 2003, when the OGL and the SRD just lit the world on fire for a while. I mean, people came out of the woodwork because suddenly they could legally publish D&D content. And even maybe make $1 or $2 doing it.
Yeah. D20 Modern was 2002.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have told you the exact year, but I can tell you which coffee table I sat around playing.
Yeah.
so I know where I was at the time. That's how my brain works.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is D20 Call of Cthulhu was also 2002.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
I mean, it's that those years. One of the reasons why I never got into third edition as much is those early years. First, I was still playing AD&D, a mix between 1E and 2E, right? And then when I stopped playing that, I went on to other games, and then I stopped playing RPGs altogether because of different life circumstances or whatever for like 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
By the time I wanted to get back into it, I hadn't played D&D since right before 3rd edition came out. And it was 2007 when I decided I wanted to start playing again because I was a little more settled. Yeah. So 2007, you go to the store and you look for D&D, or you go to the hobby store or whatever, and there are like 50 books.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I guess I'm not playing 3rd edition because, I mean, I bought the core books, right? But it was like, oh man, this is like, there's no way I can ever catch up. And remember, you're talking to an old school, like I had every D&D book, any edition I played, I had every release, whatever. If possible, I had as much as possible. I didn't always have the funds for everything, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to have the whole game, right? And so I never played 3rd edition very much. Nowadays I've got a few sessions under my belt running it, and I've played in a few sessions, but nothing anywhere near what the extensiveness that I've played all the other editions.
Sure.
With. So that's the reason. But it's because that release cycle of 1 or 2 hardcover books every month, is just killer if you can't keep up, or you don't know where to begin. Like I walked into the store and it was like, oh man.
Well,
like I don't know what to do with this.
Just to be maximally brain breaking, you've got to remember that in about fall of 2003, they hit the reset button on it all.
Right, and did 3.5. I know.
And so everything that was really important got some kind of re-release. And so like
right.
If you track any of this at all, you know about the OGL glut of 3rd Ed D&D, but living through it was a whole experience, right? Like I was in college and had some disposable income, and the amount of stuff I've still got is insane.
Amazing, right? Yeah. Well, and also remember that it wasn't, PDFs weren't big, right? You didn't get stuff on PDF back then. So you were buying published, printed books. That was the only way you could get most of them.
Well, and those things weren't funded with Kickstarter. Ain't no Kickstarter in 2002. Right?
Yeah.
So it's all a question of like, can somebody front this money and make something happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, those were weird, strange days for sure. But, I mean, we're way off on a tangent now, but
weird.
That's to be expected. So let's go back to damage thresholds and, or I guess, massive damage threshold.
So the thing here is just having a bunch of hit points is no guarantee that you're going to make it through the round, right? A large hit point pool might mean nothing, like one unlucky roll and you're in the dirt. And also, like, a larger number of smaller attacks is really a lot worse than a smaller number of larger attacks, such as sneak attack, right? So that's a big.
Well, and in some ways, that's the whole. It's like the relationship between focused fire, right?
Yep.
It's the same idea there, that if you're hitting just one opponent, if everybody's hitting one opponent, they're going to go down much faster because you've got a number of attacks and they are all meaningful.
Yep. And then there's alternative save failure results because they're already seeing that, like, the 3rd edition death process of bleeding out 1 point at a time toward -10 with a chance to stabilize on your own each round doesn't feel great. it doesn't have the tension that you want when someone's on the ground bleeding to death, and so what they try are things like a near death result, which might land you on -8 hit points. That's pretty tense. Yeah, that's you don't have a lot of time. A variable result where you roll a d10 and the negative value of that d10 is how many hit points you are below water, and you might be instantly dead if you roll a 10 on that.
Now, I will also point out that what you said a second ago about how counting down and ticking the hit points down one by one for 9 rounds doesn't have the tension that they wanted from a character dying. Well, that's part of the same reason as the wound system above, right?
Yeah.
Where you get a wound and you go into a death spiral that needs to be taken care of. That's supposed to evoke a tension between what the healer in the party is doing, or maybe someone else who could stabilize that person, and what's going on outside of the wounded individual's sphere. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's meant to evoke tension.
Yep, I agree with that.
Now, how successful it was, just as in this, how successful it was is another story. I never played with any of these, so
No, we didn't either. Well, except for we played with the massive damage threshold variant for D20 Modern. The couple times we tried that at all. So, I mean, next up we have Death and Dying section, which is where they have a Fortitude save that is literally a death save.
Right.
I mean, it scales off Fortitude, which means fighters are going to be really good at it, and wizards are going to be all hemophiliacs, I guess. Which that's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough, buddy. And like other than that aspect, it is real similar to the whole point of the death save. And like what I'm trying to say with my comment about fighter and wizard is to highlight why death saves don't have any scaling function from your constitution or your proficient saves or anything in 5th edition and 4th edition. Now, there are ways to become proficient or partially proficient in death saves or to have advantage of death saves in 5th edition. Don't at me. I'm aware. But it isn't mostly a thing.
Yeah. I want to point out 2 things from this. And one of them is if you the DC is 10 plus 2 points per every 10 points of damage that you took in that attack.
Yeah.
Success. So that's the first thing to point out is it scales a little bit, right?
Yep.
But then it says success means that you are disabled. Failure means you're dying. So here's the thing, though. Here's why I bring this up. Disabled in this section is different from the disabled in that injury variant section, right? So you have to be careful. So in other words, nowadays they make their conditions be named very specifically, and it always means the same thing.
Yeah.
But with these variants, that's not true. It does not always necessarily mean the same thing. It means disabled in this context. It's a lot of it's the same, but there's some slight differences that could become important, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so you can't just assume that disabled, dying, stable means the same exact thing here as it does in one of these other alternative variant systems.
Right. Well, and D&D has a long history of needing a damn thesaurus.
Sure. Yeah.
Level.
I know, right? That's what I was just thinking. level. Yeah. So in any case, do you find this, it's interesting? Whatever. Okay. It's a death save. It's not interesting now because we've had 2 editions of something more streamlined.
Well, so if for some reason it were necessary that I go back and run a third edition game, which it isn't, but imagine for a second with me.
Right.
Using this does feel pretty plausible to me because it does, carry some tension on a die roll, other than did I get my 10% chance to auto stabilize? No. All right. Well, I take down by 1. Another thing that I don't think we're necessarily going to see here, but is a variant I saw a lot of the time, is the acknowledgement that the -1 to -10 window is trivial and useless at high levels when a 40 to 50 point damage attack incoming is normal. That's a totally normal thing. To say nothing of a crit. Well, if that's normal, then someone can go from, basically fine, I'm sitting on 30 hit points, to gone.
Yeah.
And that's missing the tense moment that is interesting and fun. And it's really making sure the key tense moment of healer gameplay is not happening. Well, that's not good. You don't want that, right?
Right.
Support healer gameplay by making a rescue possible is the lesson. So in that light, using this becomes much more appealing.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And so that brings us to action points.
Yep. So action points are going to become part of the just the core DNA of Eberron. Was Eberron released in 2004? I think it was.
2004. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, 2004. So action points become some of the essential DNA of Eberron and a good number of other 3.5 era OGL games, right? And the idea is just that you are, representing high heroism and feats of daring do that let the players turn, a failure into a success or a hit against them into a miss or whatever by rolling an extra die and spending a resource.
It's very popular because it puts the resource in the player's hands, and they can choose when to use the action point and overcome something that they didn't necessarily expect. Sometimes when you're making a roll and you expect to succeed, you just think it's going to be a typical triumphant whatever, and then you fail.
Yep.
And so here's a way to rescue it.
Right. And
it's very simple.
Correcting for the cruelty of the very flat probability of a d20 is a reasonable thing to want. I've always had a problem with how action points were implemented here and in Eberron that I've just never been okay with at all, and it's just a brain glitch, I guess. But every time a character advances, he gains a number of action points equal to 5 plus 1/2 his new character level. So that's clearing out your previous count of action points. They don't want you stockpiling level over level. The thing is, in a lot of games, you don't have a way to understand your budgeting of action points as you approach that new level. Right? You don't have a way to understand how far off that next level is. So you can't necessarily say to yourself, we've probably got about one more session to go before we level. I might as well spend 2 or 3 action points that I've been sitting on because they're going away if I don't spend them. Right? And just even asking players to think about making sure they spend all of these before they level is just very teeth grinding for me. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
get
like
that.
decision making to work on that zoomed out of a meta level. So yeah, that's me.
I mean, but at the same time, I understand why that ruling is there. That they, because some people would save up, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it also signals why action points in 4th edition don't work like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like you have one. You can store more up, but you can't spend them all in one encounter. So,
right.
So what?
Right.
And so, if you don't spend them at the end of the day, well, they get flushed, and you go back to one. Well, that's fine.
But you get that one the next day, so
yeah,
it doesn't feel like a loss if you don't end up using it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a loss, but it's a pretty small one.
Sure, right. Yeah,
but you've got a thing
because it's so small, it doesn't really seem like it has a huge impact. Because it's not like you lose it because you didn't use it, and you're only going to get one when you get to your next level, which who knows how, right? So that runs into that problem again of how do I know how long it's going to be?
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that because it's going to come either the next day, or perhaps if you're getting to a milestone, which is after 2 encounters or 3 encounters, right? Milestone means something different in 4th edition than it does in 5th edition, so don't misunderstand.
For sure.
So yeah, but yeah, so it's yeah. The thing is, I know that this system was very, people enjoyed this, right? In the same way that in 4th edition they enjoyed rolling 2d20 for an Avenger, right? And that got carried into 5th edition. Well, this got carried into 4th edition because it is a very enjoyable mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, what the action point gets you is quite different, but because it's
sure, but the idea of it is worthy enough,
for sure,
to evoke enough fun to be pulled into the next edition.
For sure. And I do really like the idea of getting to spend action points to crank up your feats and make them more better. That would be a cool thing to see built into the core of a system, so that it was something you're considering for every feat or micro feature that you sold. I do dig that.
Yeah. And it's a good way to make those feats a little bit more meaningful.
For sure. Oh, this next one. Are we ready to hit combat facing? Because I have a
do you have things to say about it? I mean,
yeah, it's gonna be real fast. You're gonna like it.
It evokes the 2E.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, go listen to us talk about this.
Yeah.
Go listen to us talk about this in the 12 Days of Edition Wars. Anyway, moving on.
Nice. Yeah. No, I'm totally fine with that. It's basically the same thing. I'm sure there are some few slight nuances for 3rd edition.
There are.
But,
Yeah. This is
it's the same.
There's no way we can talk to you, dear listener, about this in any useful way because it's so visual. If you are really, really invested in nuances of positioning and flanking, then maybe hunt up a PDF of this and look at it. But man, no.
It literally takes the game. So let's just make this clear at the outset. 3rd edition assumed that you were using minis.
Right.
No, I take it back. They implied that miniature use was a good idea.
Right.
And there's enough in the mechanics, the standard mechanics, not necessarily in this book. There's enough in the standard mechanics to make you want to use a map in minis. If you don't want to, it still works. It's fine. But most people, to my knowledge, were using some kind of map and some kind of mini, something to represent the characters. Okay. And that was just assumed that was going to be how it was.
Mm-hmm.
This section of this book takes that into so much detail. It takes it so much deeper into the tiny nuances of positioning and facing and all of that stuff, that it literally turns it into a miniatures war game for every battle, even more than what people complained about 4th edition D&D.
Yep.
Because in 4th edition D&D, the movement's actually very much simplified, and the way that, pushes and pulls and different things like that work are very much simplified. Here, it is, this is the largest single section of this chapter. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then if you count the hexes and all that stuff, I'm not saying it's a bad section. I'm just saying we can't dig into it, and it's going to be real boring to listen to us talk about it.
Yep.
So I agree. Go listen to our 12 Days of Christmas, 12 Days of Edition Wars series where we talked about combat and tactics, because it's basically the same thing but in much more detail.
Mm-hmm.
With using terminology from 3rd edition.
So the one last thing I want to say about this is that if you can read this and still think that having flanking rules in 5th edition is a good idea, the optional flanking rules, I don't know that I can help you. It's okay that you like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't like that, but we're on a different planet as to what is satisfying at the table. Like, I am wild about the fact that rogues don't need to position on the opposite side of a monster and just need an adjacent ally to the monster. That is the best to me.
Yeah.
Because the whole conga line system of 3rd ed and 4th ed flanking was so tedious and so samey in every fight.
Right. Yeah, because if it's important to your attack, you're going to do it.
Yeah. Especially in 4th. Oh man, that +2 attack bonus. Like, attack bonus is king in 4th. We've said it before, and I'll say it again. Attack bonus is absolutely where it is at, because the system is so stingy on bonuses to attack.
Right.
All right, so
let's move on to variable modifiers.
So variable modifiers. So it is wild to see this in D&D to me, because this is Earth Dawn, man.
Yeah.
This is straight up some Earth Dawn stuff. Like, I was playing Earth Dawn with my buddies in North Carolina, run by my friend Christopher Mifsud, just a couple years after this came out. Would have been about 2008 that we were playing a bunch of Earth Dawn, and I'm not sure this chart isn't ripped off.
It might be. It might be.
It literally could be ripped off.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me to compare, because I never owned any Earth Dawn books. But man, that is what is going on here with the dice step chart. And that step chart is the beating heart of all action resolution in Earth Dawn. It's just that in D&D there's a baseline D20, and in Earth Dawn there's not. That's not a thing. Right? You just have the die you roll and however many steps, like up or down, that has to go.
So let's tell the audience what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, it'd be really good, wouldn't
it? Basically, the premise is having static attack modifiers and attribute check modifiers, and D20 rolls is too predictable. So you can, bolt on this variable modifier system that basically says any modifier that you have that is higher than a +1 or lower than a -1, you can, instead of adding, another +1, so now I have a +2, another +1, so now I have a +3. Instead of doing that, you add or take away dice from the pool of dice that you're rolling for that particular task. Okay, so for example, it says first level Tordek has an attack bonus of +4 when he uses his Dwarven War Axe. However, instead of rolling 1d20 +4, that +4 is higher than a +1. So now we're going to replace that static modifier with some dice. And so now he's going to roll a d20 and a d8, and that will be what his roll is, instead of just doing d20 plus 4.
Yeah.
And then what you add changes based on this chart. That's the chart that Brandis just accused WotC of stealing from Earthon. But
accused is
I know.
words.
I'm just messing with you. But so, for example, if the static bonus was plus 10, then you're just adding another d20, so you're rolling 2d20. If the static bonus is plus 6, you're adding a d12, so you're rolling a d20 and a d12. If your static bonus is plus 19, you're rolling the initial d20 plus another d20 plus 2d8.
That's a bunch.
Yeah, it's a bunch. But if you roll a 1 on all of them,
sure,
right?
And
right.
Like in D&D Next, there was a span of time when skills didn't receive a fixed proficiency bonus, right?
Yes.
They received a die value. So, like, you might have
that.
You might have a D6 in stealth instead of a plus 3. Like, my table loved that.
Yeah,
and it's
mine
still
did
a variable
too. That's
rule
why
of the DMG.
Yeah,
it's still in there. Just I don't know anyone who plays with it now.
Yeah, no.
But just the fact that it kept success and failure on the table, as it were, for almost any DC was real popular with my table.
Yeah, my table loved that too. They, in fact, that's the packet that we stayed with the longest.
Yep, same.
Because they liked that so much. Yeah.
Yep.
It was exciting. Yeah.
And I think that was the active packet for a good long time.
It had a long stretch. It did, but there were at least 2 or 3 more after that, and we did not adopt them as readily as we had adopted each successive packet throughout that playtest, because they got stuck on that one because it was the best combination of the stuff they wanted.
Yeah, it certainly keeps rolls tense. That feels good.
Yeah.
Even on a failure, it can still feel really good because you can know that success was within your grasp. And the harder you make it to know the probabilities off the top of your head, the better it feels, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, because the success or failure is a surprise rather than a foregone conclusion.
Right. And oh man, what am I looking at here? This bell curve rolls business. Oh, right.
More dice.
Yeah. I've definitely seen people talk about the bell curve, about various bell curve systems, where you're rolling either 2d10 instead of a d20, or I think they're suggesting 3d6 to generate your anything you roll a d20 for, right?
Right.
And you add that up so that the math actually gravitates toward a 10 or an 11 instead of the flat probability of d20. And I don't know. There are some editions where I'd like this more, but in 5th, the whole system of advantage and disadvantage is intended from first principles to make it so that unexpected things do actually happen. They are more common than their sort of real probability would suggest, even if they're still uncommon and you don't want to bet on them, but it's still worth a shot, right? For example, attacking an invisible target, like the odds are against you, but wild stuff happens. You might as well roll it. You could literally land 2 20s, 1 in 400 shot. Go for it.
Right, and that's what I was going to say is I can't tell you how many times I've seen 2 20s rolled.
Yep.
Even, I mean, or 2 1s.
Yep.
Right? Like that happens, or not as bad, but a 1 and a 2. Like it's actually pretty easy to roll under 5 on both dice.
Oh boy.
Like suddenly you're not in the 1 in 400 chances anymore, right? Like that probability is much higher, but it doesn't come to mind as quickly if you're not super quick with math. So it's not as knowable. But boy, you sure know it when you've rolled 2 2s, or a 2 and a 4. So it's, I mean, that kind of stuff happens a lot more than I think people expect it to. Anyway, so anything else you want to say? You want to say about bell curve rolls?
No, but I'm kind of intrigued with what they're trying to say about monster challenge ratings. I'm trying to read this quickly. Nope, don't care about that.
Yeah.
Luck domain.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, some of the grants rerolls is not as useful in a bell curve situation. Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what about all players roll the dice? This is an extreme variant.
So I don't like it for D&D, personally. I know people who like it. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's, of course, a huge thing in indie gaming.
Yeah.
Huge thing.
Well, not even in indie. I mean, Numenera, the cipher system, Monty Cook's baby, is the DM doesn't roll anything.
Yeah. Numenera was one of the first places I saw that. Apocalypse World is another.
Mm-hmm.
The players roll the dice. Over the Edge does that in its 25th anniversary edition, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fine. As long as you pay attention to getting the math right, it's fine.
Right.
It isn't that hard to make it not matter.
Right. Yeah.
And if that is what's going to feel satisfying, if it's going to maybe speed up play, to let the DM never think about picking through their dice to get the right collection, but instead just say the thing on the page, and if the players can do it faster, then go with God, I guess.
Right.
I mean, I personally do get something out of being the one rolling the dice and rolling them in the open as the DM, to give a very clear washing my hands of this carnage moment, right? Or well, no, I'm not fudging in your favor. I literally can't roll above a 5 tonight. Good game, guys.
Yeah. No, I roll almost every roll I make is out in the open.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm rolling in the clear even in Roll20, because I don't get anything out of secret rolls.
Right. I do the same thing, because I'm and once again, no judgment here. There's no ethical dilemma here, but I don't fudge dice rolls ever.
Yeah, me either.
So for me, it doesn't matter if I roll that. There's never a point where I go, oh, I rolled that in the open. Whoops, let me roll it behind here. I don't do that.
Yep.
There are occasions when, if I'm rolling an enemy's stealth roll, I will roll it behind my screen, right? So that the players don't see it. Now, that's with my 2 teenage players, because they look at my dice, if I roll them. And the adults I play with, that doesn't matter if I roll it out in the open. They don't know what I'm rolling for, so it doesn't matter, and they're not, whereas the teenagers are, what's that? Oh, he rolled an 18. Something's going to happen, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so to stop that, I roll behind the screen, except for combat. I roll everything out in the open. That way, you know what? Hey, if that goblin really did roll a crit, sorry. That's just how it works. But I actually enjoy rolling dice. So, in fact, it's one of the problems I have with Numenera. Not that I think the system isn't set up well, or that it's set up to not and doesn't work. I don't think that at all. It does work very well. But I enjoy rolling dice. So running Numenera, it was hard for me, because I was not getting the tactile dice rolling portion of the game, which I do enjoy a great deal. So,
Yep.
That's a me problem. That's a mental issue that I have.
I collect my dice on purpose with intent to
use them,
cause mayhem.
Yeah, right.
I definitely feel that. I mean, especially in my Orakesh game, right? a party wipe is not a campaign ender because there are so many characters active in the campaign. The players will just go play their alts, and now they have to do a corpse run, and that's their problem,
Right.
not mine.
Yeah.
It's very West Marches in that way.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. I enjoy that style.
Yeah. I'm not doing true West Marches. I would love to, but this game is much more urban than that. But yeah, I really do love just here's what's going on. I've telegraphed what's happening. I've telegraphed the danger you're in. The rest of it's your problem.
Right. Well, that's the game, right?
Yep. That's what feels right to me.
Yeah.
And the players have responded pretty well to it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, see, my attitude about that, and we're totally getting off track, but whatever. My attitude about that is that's what it means to be in a living world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like the world around you is alive, and the NPCs in it are not frozen in suspended animation as you leave. Like there's a thing. Okay, so I'm a professor. I always joke with some of my other professor friends. We always joke that the students, a lot of them are really young and they don't really think. They think when they leave the classroom we're like frozen in suspended animation until they come back in, 2 days later when they have another class, right? They don't think about it as we have a life, and we actually go to other classes as well and teach those, and we go to our office and we grade papers and we work, and then we go home, and and then we come back, and then we're in the building again. They're just like assuming that we're frozen like some kind of computer program, and that's kind of, I mean, it's whatever. Like, they shouldn't care about my life necessarily. I'm not making a value judgment about them or something. But that tends to be more prevalent in younger people. And of course, as a college professor, I'm around young people all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that happens like in a game too, right? If you run a setting, if the DM is running a setting and doesn't really make the NPCs have a life outside of what the players are having their PCs do, then why shouldn't they expect the merchant to freeze in his shop until they walk through the door?
Sure.
Right. But I don't run I try to run my game as much as possible as there's other stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's other stuff going on. And so when you try to go see somebody, they don't necessarily have to be in their shop or their temple or, on the island at all, right? I mean, like that's what happens. People move and go do things and look up things and get in trouble and all that stuff, despite what the players are having their PCs do, and sometimes because of what the PCs are doing, right?
Right.
And so therefore, you have the exact right attitude where, hey, look, this happened, and that's your problem to solve. What these people are all just living their lives too, and now you got to deal with whatever the fallout of the other group's actions were. Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's just how it works.
All right. I don't think we're seriously going to launch into the next chapter here.
We're not doing the next chapter. No.
And I guess I just want to say, if you want to hear a preview of this chapter, go back and listen to 12 Days of Edition Wars when we cover spells and magic. Right. Because, boy howdy, is a lot of those concepts rehashed in this.
And that says something, right? Yeah. That says that even though those things were published in late second edition and what I call 2.5, right?
Yep.
That those concepts need very little tweaking to be brought into third edition. And here they are.
Well,
once again, right in
the concepts of spell points is never going to die.
Right.
Right.
Sure. Right.
There's always going to be people who love D&D, but cannot stand Vancian slot-based magic.
Right.
And spell points are always going to be for them. So every edition is going to have some kind of variant for that other than fourth, because fourth is the outlier. And so here it is for third. Spells and magic had it for second. The DMG has it for fifth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're done with chapter 4 then. And so just for our audience, this book has 6 chapters. So,
Yeah.
So I-
You know who thought we were getting through this in maybe 2 or 3 episodes?
no, I don't know.
Some poor fool who will remain nameless.
I know not what
But
you're
it was
talking
both
about.
of us.
Well, the thing is, with a deep dive, like I honestly read the chapter, right? Like
Yeah.
I try to, and it makes me think about, oh, gee, wow, how similar to second edition is that? How similar to fourth? How similar to fifth? Like, but here's the thing. I think our audience enjoys that.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I mean, I no longer remember how we got through 12 Days of Edition Wars, covering, each book in only 3 episodes.
Right. Well, because we knew. We knew, and we stopped each other. Also, sometimes we didn't, and I had to edit.
Oopsie.
But anyway, so I think that's going to finish us for this episode.